Okay, welcome everybody. Last week we discussed basically the most important focus of last week's class was the verse, the pasuk, Ein oid milvadoi. Arizal ladas ki Hashem Elokim ein oid milvadoi. It's not, and there's various translations or various understandings of what that particular thing means. The Rambam and various others explain what this means is not that there's no one besides Hashem and there's nothing else, but rather that there's nothing that has the same truth to their existence as his existence, which the Abarbanel and various others explain to mean that his existence is necessary existence and everything else's existence is contingent, right? It's dependent existence. His existence is independent of anything else, and if everything else would cease to exist, he would continue to exist. And the existence of everything else is dependent on him. If he wouldn't be there, God forbid, there would be nothing. There would be absolutely nothing at all. Okay, that was one explanation of the concept of Ein Od Milvado. Along came the Tikkunei Zohar in reading number 7. And the Tikkunei Zohar says as follows: Ein oid milvadoi belo period or belo shituf klal. The Zohar focuses here, the Tikkunei Zohar. The Tikkunei Zohar is one of the sections of the Zohar. It's actually an independent book. The Tikkunei Zohar is explanations on the first word of the Torah, the word Bereshit, right? The word Bereshit. There are 70 explanations of the word Bereshit in the Tikkunei Zohar. That's all it is. It's all about the first word of the Torah, Bereshis, right? Bereshis bara Elokim. And the many different concepts there. Bara Hashis, he created the 6 sides of space, the 6, which turns out to be the 6 sfirot of Zeir Anpin, right? From Chesed to Yesod. And that's Bara Hashis. He created the 6 sides of space, or up and down, front and back, right and left. 6 sides of space, and various other explanations of that. And Brit Eish is another permutation of the word Bereshit, a covenant of fire, which is the whole giving of Matan Torah and in the choosing of Bnei Yisrael, and so on and so forth. Okay. But here the Tikkunei Zohar says, Ein oid milvado below piru below shituf klal. There's nothing that besides him, in the sense that there's no period, there's no separation in him. There's no separation and there's no partnership with anything else. What does that mean to say? It does mean to say that although there are other powers, nevertheless these other powers, according to the Zohar, are simply like an axe in the hand of the wood chopper. Like an axe in the hand of the wood chopper. In other words, they don't have any independent will, they don't have any independent existence, they're not partners in any way in creation or in running things. In other words, they don't have any will to change anything, they just carry out the will of the wood chopper, the will of Hashem, the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay. Below period, meaning to say that he's completely one, right? He's one, and there's not 2 aspects, because you might think, since there are different names that are given to Hashem in the Torah, that therefore there are different these point to different gods, right? That's not true. The Zohar goes on to explain that the various names are lefi ma'asai ani ekra, according to my deeds I am called. In other words, when there is an activity, an action of gevura, then it will be Shem Elokim. If it's an action of chesed, then it would be a different shame. It would be the shame Yud Kei Vav Kei or whatever. The different names are only a clue to what type of effect or what type of deed is going on now, but not that there is any separation in Hashem himself. So that's the way the Zohar explains Ein Od Milvado. There's nothing besides. In other words, only him and all these other things that we assume, or we would assume, or we could assume that are sort of partners with him. No, they're all him doing all of these things. But the Zohar doesn't go on to say much about the idea of whether there is an existence or not. Okay. I'm going to skip a few. We don't have to read all of these because it's going to get a little bit tedious. I would like to get on to the next Shita, which is number 10. Reading number 10, text number 10 from the Shalah. The Shalah, Rabbi Yeshaya Horowitz, who was, although he was before the time of Chassidus, he was after the time of the Arizal. He was in the early 1600s. And his writings, the Rebbe was once asked, somebody asked him, besides learning Chassidus, I want to learn other things that are, in the same mold as Chassidus, but besides Chassidic teachings, is there anything I should learn? And the Rebbe told him, learn the Shalah, right? The Shnei Luchot HaBrit, Rabbi Yitzchak, Rabbi Yeshaya Horowitz. So he says over there, the Shlosh says in Sefer Vayikra, Perik Torah Or, etc., Sefer Torah Kohanim, he says as follows: Ki ein oid milvadoi. What does ein oid milvadoi mean? According to him, ve'ein shum davar zulato yizborach. That's all there is. It's only him. That's all there is. Right? Before we said there's no other existence like his. The Zohar says there's no existence that separates within him. No, there's nothing that causes separation within him. Along comes the Shloh and he says there's nothing else. That's all there is. Everything's that's all Eibishter. That's all there is, right? And in fact, along comes Rebbe in Likutei Sichos, and he explains basically the same thing. Now, it's in many places in Chassidus. I just chose this because it's brief, but many Maimorim that explain the same thing in Derech Mitzvosecha, for example, in Hamonis Elokus, and in Achdus Hashem, explain the same idea, right? Explain the same idea. In any event, this is what it says in Likutei Sichos, Chelik Lamed, and we're reading text number 11. Ki ha'amuna ha'emitis ba'achdus yizbarach, the true emuna, faith in Hashem's achdus, Hashem's oneness, hu lo yirak she'ein od elokam milvado, chas v'sholem. Not only that there's no other God besides him, chas v'sholem to even think such a thing, ela she'ein od shum metzius bilado yizbarach. There's no other existence than his. He's all that there is. Ki mitzvah hametzius shekol nivra hu rak hadvar Hashem hamachayehu mahavehu ma'ayin leyesh tamid. Right? There's no other existence, and if you see the existence of anything else, it's him doing it. Right? That's the point that the Rebbe is making over here. Not that there's no other existence. There is existence, but that existence comes from Dvar Hashem. As it says, B'reish Elokim es Shemayim Sa'aretz v'Yom Elokim Yior v'Yior. So there's an existence. We see an existence around us, something that our senses can't deny, as the Rambam pointed out. We can't say that there's nothing that exists besides Hashem. There is a world, but that world, says the Rebbe in the Likutei Sichos, is also him. It's an act. It's an activity which he's doing. What's the activity? The activity is he's constantly creating us miyesh, ayin leyesh, from nothing. Ex nihilo, as the expression is in English, constantly creating us from nothing by speaking the words of Bereshis constantly. In other words, it wasn't a one-time thing that happened once upon a time. It started at a certain point in time, yes. In fact, time started with that. That's when time started. But he's constantly saying these things. They're saying the utterances through which creation is brought into being, and that is a theme that the Alter Rebbe takes up in Shar HaYichur Ve'emunah, and he discusses it at length in Shar HaYichur Ve'emunah, how HaKadosh Baruch Hu is always repeating and saying the words through which existence comes into being. Similarly, in Lukatei Siches, Chelik Lamed Heit, Amud 29, page 29, he says as follows, and this is number 12. Nizgala bepnimis HaTorah oifen amok yoiser, a much deeper way of understanding, ba'achdusi Yisborach, understanding his oneness, and skip the brackets there, ad shelo rak she'en lo shum davar, en lo shum davar ezo shlita, shemilvad Yisborach. Not only is there nothing else which has any rulership or any dominion besides HaKadosh Baruch Hu, ela od zois, but furthermore, she'en shum metzius milvadoi, there's nothing besides his existence. This is the meaning of Ein Od Milvadoi. She'en shum metzius bilado Yisborach. That's all there is. Right? And then number 13 will tell you another few Maramakoimus where you can see the same thing expressed, the same idea expressed. In other words, the only existence that there is Hashem's existence, nothing else. So, the question that we have to ask, therefore, is, if there is a world, like how does that come into being? How do we have a limited existence, this world which we can't deny, right? As the Rambam says, if you open your eyes, you look around, you see there's a world around you, right? How does this world come into being from the existence of Hashem? If Hashem is all there is, there's nothing else, how do we have a world? Right? We have to explain that. Now, we'll see soon from the next little bit that we're going to read over here from Torah Shmuel, which is from the Rebbe Maharash. The Rebbe Maharash is very adamant that don't think that therefore, because we said Ein Od Milvado, that therefore the world is only a dream. It doesn't really exist. It doesn't really exist. You might imply that from the Rambam, because the Rambam says there's no true existence other than his, and therefore everything else's existence is not true existence. So you could conclude from what the Rambam is saying, maybe you could conclude that the rest of existence is sort of like a dream. Yeah? It exists in a dream kind of state. It doesn't really exist. You might think that, right? Says the Rabbi Maharash, and then the next piece that we're going to read, he says, no, don't come to that conclusion. That conclusion is incorrect.
That it's a dream. The conclusion is not accurate. That it's a dream.
No, it's not a dream.
Right.
It's not a dream. Yeah.
It's inaccurate.
It's inaccurate. Yeah. Right. Exactly. I forgot to mention that the Shiur is dedicated to the Refuah Shleima Umalaya of Yaakov Chaim Moshe ben Freda. I forgot to mention that. I mentioned at the beginning of the Shiur, but now that we're into Ein Od Milvado, that's he's Reifach Chol Mafli Lasois also. Right. So Be'ez Hashem you should have a Refuah Shleima and a Kreva. Good. Okay. So.
Can I?
Yes.
I can't seem to ponder why do we place such an emphasis on finding out what kind of existence we need to be defined by. Is that a relevant question? Or
it's a relevant question. I'm not 100% sure I know what you mean.
In other words, why are we discussing, why is it relevant for us that there is or there is not an existence in our creation?
Okay. Good. He's going to explain that. One of the inyonim is the question was, why is it so important for us to define the nature of our existence? Yes. Why do we have to know the nature of our existence? So he's going to explain that if we didn't exist as real entities, as real existence, then there would be no meaning to reward and punishment, and there would essentially be no meaning to the mitzvahs. Because what would you be doing? You wouldn't be doing anything, right? It's only a choloim, it's sort of a dream. So he has to explain, and not only that, but also, as he will explain as well, since it states in the Torah, Bereshis bara Elokim, God created, in the beginning God created, right? Therefore you have to say that that's emes. It's true, he created. He created a different level of being other than himself, so to speak, outside of himself. Now the question is, how did he create something outside of himself, which exists only outside of himself in our consciousness, but in his consciousness, so to speak, it exists within him. That's a difficult thing to define, right? It's kind of a contradictory situation. In our awareness, we're outside of him, but in his awareness, we're inside of him. Right? Yeah. Okay. So this is what he has to explain, and let's get to it. Let's see how he goes about this and explains it. All right. So again, we're looking at reading number 14, Torah Shmuel, from Tafresh Chof Tes. Im ne'emar shemetzius ha'olam v'chol ma shenivra hu metzius. If we're going to say that the existence of the world and everything that was created is a metzius, does actually exist, we have to say that the im lav kain, because if we don't say that, ma'hu shenivra b'sheish yemei bereshis, what was created in the 6 days of creation. She'im ne'emar shezehu rak ma shenidme lanu. If it's only that it appears to us that we exist, but we don't really exist, we're just someone's dream, and there are such philosophies, right? There are amongst the goyim, they have such a philosophy that we only exist as the dream of some higher being. We don't really exist, right? And so the Rebbe Maharash says that's not, you can't say that. First of all, it says in the Torah, Bereshis bara Elokim, he created during the Sheish Yemei Bereshis. We do exist. The level of existence that we live at, we have to discuss, right? But nevertheless, we exist. Again, if it's only that it appears to us that we exist, right? Why does it say? Why does it state in the Torah, Bereshis bara, God created? If you would hold by that shita, isn't it true that nothing was actually created? It was just a dream? Or just a thought, it only appears that we're here, right, to us, instead of actually being here. We have to say, the world actually exists as an existence. It exists. It's here. It's a yesh. It's a davar. It's a thing. And we can bring a sort of a proof for this from halacha. A very interesting proof from halacha that he brings, and it's Meimam Arizal. It's a statement of the sages in the Mishnah. Mishnah so Perek Zayin, the Sanhedrin, Mishnah Yud Aleph. Right? We bring a proof from the Mishnah. Shnaim loiktim kishuin. There were two people that were gathering cucumbers. Right? Kishuim, it could be gourds, it could be cucumbers. Let's say cucumbers for ease of reference. Kishuim are really more like squashes of some sort, but anyway, whatever, right? Zucchini. Right, zucchini. Okay. Zayda. Yeah? Echad loket chaya, ve'echad loket poter. One who gathers them, one of the people gathering is chayev. He's chayev an aveira. He did an aveira. Ve'echad loket poter, another one's poter. How so? What does the Mishnah mean? The Mishnah continues. Someone who actually did a deed of kishuf. Right? Kishuf meaning sorcery. Right? Kishuf. Witchcraft. Chayev. He would be chayev. What would he be chayev for? He would be chayev for doing this on, let's say he's doing it on Shabbos. He would be chayev for being over this Isur on Shabbos, right? He would actually be chayav for kishuv as well, but yeah. But someone who just does it by way of achizas einayim means how would you translate achizas einayim? It's like he hypnotizes you into thinking so, right? In other words, it's sleight of hand, right? What they call in English sleight of hand. You know, like magicians. Magicians appear to do wonderful things, like pull a rabbit out of a hat or whatever it is. Yeah, but it's all trickery, right? They don't really do it. It's not really. But someone who's picking cucumbers on a Shabbos, if he does it with kishuf, he's chayav because he actually cut the cucumbers or the zucchinis down or whatever, right? And someone who does it and only appears that way, he's fooling you into thinking they were already cut from before, right? So
he's actually doing it. But he's actually doing it.
No, it's only achizas einayim. He's only fooling you. It's a sleight of hand. Yeah, magician, huh? It was already done before. Then he's potter. He would be potter. But one who actually does it is chayiv. Okay, so That's the proof that he brings. How he explains it. Im ne'emar shelo yesh metzius ha'olam. If you're going to say that there's no world that exists, klal at all, mipnei ma ha'oisem ma'aseh chayev. Why should this person be chayev? Right? The world doesn't exist anyway. Halo ein ha'oisem b'kishuv shelo klal. He's not doing anything with his witchcraft. Ma'ach shelo yesh kishuin klal, because there's no cucumbers there anyway, or zucchini there anyway, right? It's all in your imagination. It doesn't really exist. Kim nid melanu. But it only appears that there are kishuin, shezeh kishuin chulu. So obviously, since the halacha is not like that, since the halacha is that a person who does that is yeh chayev, right? He's chayev. Therefore, we must conclude that there are cucumbers there, or zucchini, whatever they are, and he actually picked them. Yes, so the world must exist. Otherwise, the halacha would have no meaning. Now, you can take any halacha, the same thing, but this is one of those halachas. And for this reason, someone who just does it by sleight of hand, by magic tricks, so to speak, since he really isn't doing anything, he's potter. Doesn't say it's mutter to do it, but he's potter. That's why magicians, when they go to Jewish parties to do a magic tricks for a kid's party or something like that or whatever, so it's always advisable to explain beforehand that what he's doing is only tricks, and it looks very real, but it isn't. And I remember seeing a magician once who actually showed one of the tricks, how he was doing it, to show you that he's not really doing. Why? Because to use magic forces and things like that would be asked for a yid, and therefore he wanted us to know that he's only doing it by achizas einayim. It's only trickery of the eyes, right? He's only, and that's how they do it, because they're getting you to look here, meanwhile they're doing the thing over there, right? That's usually how it works, or whatever, right? Okay. Achizas einayim is holding your eyes over there. Okay, so. How are you potter? Because he's not really doing anything, therefore he's potter. He didn't do anything. And if we would say that the world doesn't actually exist, then there wouldn't be any skila either. In other words, the person would be stoned to death for being over a maisa on Shabbos or whatever, but picking cucumbers on Shabbos, right from the bush or whatever they grow on. So there's no stones and there's no skila, and he doesn't exist either. Right? So this wouldn't make sense. Like, why we're going to so many halachas and all these inyonim if nothing actually existed. Nimtza shelo yesh schar v'onesh v'lo yesh Torah mitzvos. There's no punishment, there's no reward, there's no Torah mitzvos. Shezeh yesh haklal. We can't say that at all. Obviously, no one would think that is the case. Ela ha'inyan hu. The concept is as follows: the be'emes mitzias ha'olam hu mitzias. The world is the world. The world exists. Rash l'chol dava v'dava miprate ha'nivroim. The biyah. Only what? All the different types of creations that there are in the worlds of Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya. There are 5 worlds that are spoken about in Kabbalah and Chassidus. The highest world is called Adam Kadmoin, and then the world of Atzilus, or Atzilut, and then Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya. So Biyah is the world of Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya, which are much lower down. The world of Atzilus is a world of Elokus, and the world of Adam Kadmon, Kol Shekayim V'Kal V'Choyim, how much more so is it a world of Elokus. Even in Atzilus, it says, the Alter Rebbe brings in Agiras HaKodesh Perek Chof, Iyu V'Chayo Echad, Iyu Gomo Echad, right? He and the oir that there is in the world of Atzilus are one. He and the Kalim, or the Chayus of the Kalim in the world of Atzilus are also one. In other words, united with Hashem. We'll explain that at a later stage, but that is not true in the worlds of Biyah, in the worlds of Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya. In other words, all of the things in Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya are finite existences, right? Whereas the world of Atzilus is not a finite existence in the same sense. It's not Hashem's infinite existence, but it's not a finite existence in the same sense, as we will explain. So again, there's a root for it up above. And everything in the world, the Bri, Yetzirah, and Asiya, mishtalshel, it descends by way of, there's a whole process of descent called the Seder Hishtalshalut. The Seder Hishtalshalut means how things chain down, or if you want to use the expression devolve, they're not evolve but devolve from a higher state to a lower state. Evolution is from a lower state to a higher state, from simple organisms to complex organisms, right? The way it's seen in Kabbalah and in Chassidus is that things go from a state of simplicity, the simplicity of Elokus, which is not murkab, it's not compounded, it's completely simple and not complex. And the more complex things get, the lower they are on the scale, right? There's a pshitus of Elokus, there's a simplicity and undifferentiated Elokus, undifferentiated meaning without divisions in it, right? And then everything else has differentiation, has changes, it has this and that. Elokus is unchanging, emes, right? And everything down here is not like that. Okay, so everything down here is mishtalshel from what came from up above. It has a source up above and it changed down or devolved from up above. Hishtalshlus hamadregus. Okay.
I'm sorry. Can you kind of expand on Yisroel Shumoker the Mila?
Yes. Okay. I'll explain that. Yeah. Everything has its source up above. In other words, all of existence that we know it has its source in the 10 utterances of creation. Right now, in the 10 utterances of creation, it doesn't talk about an iPhone, right? It doesn't talk about this table. It doesn't talk about these kinds of things, right? There's lots of things. Even the word Even is not mentioned in the Asara Mamoros, the 10 utterances through which the world was created in Bereshit. So how did these other things come about? They came about through a process of descent. In other words, there's a general category of creation, that things are created in general categories, and then the categories sort of split up and they divide and subdivide and subdivide and subdivide until you get
whatever.
Yeah, right. That's so everything has a cherish up above. Now, there's an analogy which is brought to explain this a little bit more. He doesn't bring it over here, but I'll say it outside. It's brought on the Mishnah in Sefer Yetzirah. Sefer Yetzirah says like this, like Esas Sfiros HaGnuzois b'Ma'atzilan. It calls the 10 Sfiros which are Gnuzois, they're concealed within their emanator, within Ma'atzilan, which means above in some way, in some sense or another. So there's a discussion of what does it mean, Esas Sfiros HaGnuzois, right? And then it goes on, the Sefer Yetzirah goes on to say, Esas Sfiros HaGnuzois b'Ma'atzilan, כגחלת הקשורה כשלהבת הקשורה בגחלת. Let me say that again. I'm getting it. כשלהבת, like a flame, הקשורה, which is bound, לגחלת, to the burning coal, like a flame to the coal. Right? So there's a discussion now of what the Esas Sfiros HaGnuzois are, what these hidden spheroids are. Is it like the flame which is bound to the coal but outside of the coal, the flame outside of the coal? Or are we talking about the flame as it is inside the coal? Right? Now, the flame inside the coal means that you don't see the flames on top of the coal. It's like burning coals. Of course there's heat. If you look carefully, you'll see there's heat above. But the flames are now not above the coal, but part of the coal itself. Right? When the flames are above the coal, it's like the gases or whatever that are burning off, right? When the flame is inside the coal, it's part of the coal itself. It's the coal itself that's burning, right? Okay. So this is two types of spheroids. The spheroids are gluyos, the revealed spheroids, the spheroids which we see in creation, and then the spheroids are gnuzois, which are not seen in creation, right? Which we don't see, but we understand or behind this thing. Behind the existence of the revealed spirits. So again, which are the revealed spheroids? Are the revealed spheroids like the flame which is attached to the coal, or are the Yud spheroids like the flame which is inside the coal? So we said that both of them are true, right? Both of these are true, right? There's the flame as it's attached to the coal. In other words, without the coal there's no flame, right? So it's attached to the coal. It's not an independent existence. It's part of the coal in the sense that without the coal it wouldn't be there, right? So these spheres are gnuzois, let's say, in the world of Atzilus, right? In the world of Atzilus, you have as spheres like gnuzois, which are like the flame outside of the coal but attached to the coal. And again, there's a machlokes which way we explained. Then there's a deeper level, the flame as it's within the coal, which are called the essence spheres, the 10 spheres of the world of Adam Kadmon. Right now, Adam Kadmon is like a meta world. It's a world which includes all the worlds and from which everything else developed. And we'll talk a little bit later about what Adam Kadmon is when we get there, right? Then there's an even deeper level than that, and that's called the Esser Spheres Gnuzas B'Ma'atzilam, before the Tzimtzum. This is brought in Chassidus, not brought anywhere else, before the Tzimtzum. So what is that? That's like the flame in a flintstone. You know what a flintstone is? In the old days, they used to make fire, not from a cigarette lighter or a match or whatever it is, but they would take a certain type of rock, and they would hit it with a metal bar, and a spark would come off, right? Huh? Even Zur, yeah, that's what it's called. It's called a Zur, Even Zur. Flintstone in English. So this Even Zur, in a sense, also has fire within it, because if you hit it with a metal bar, a spark jumps out, right? And that, now it's not that there's really fire inside there. The emotional is brought. Even if you leave it in water, you leave this flintstone in water for a week or whatever, and it's soaking wet when you take it out. You hit it with a metal bar, and the spark is going to still fly out, right? So that's a mashal. It's an analogy to explain to us an even more hidden level of fire, even more than the coal, the fire within the coal. There's a fire outside of the coal, attached to the coal. There's a fire inside of the coal, and then there's the spark of fire that's not even there. If you look for it and you analyze it, you take it under a microscope, you won't see any fire there, right? There's no fire. It feels cold to the touch, so to speak. But it's a potential for fire, right? So that's in the Orange, so before the Tzimtzum. Some explain it that the flintstone is the spheres of Ak, and then the fire in the coal is Atzilus, and the fire outside of the coal is Bria. There's different ways of explaining it, but in any event, these are both. So, when we say that everything is attached to its source above, what we mean is everything that we can see over here has its source, just like the 10 spheroids, the revealed spheroids, have their attachment to the flame, right? And the flame has attachment to the flame within the coal, and the flame within the coal is even on a lower level, nevertheless, than the flame, the spark inside the Tzura Chalomish, inside the flintstone. But all of these, they have their source, right? It goes all the back to the flintstone, so to speak, which started the fire. Yeah. Okay. So that's the.
Is this more like his initial conceivement of something, or how do you?
Yes. We're going to get to that in a minute. We're going to get to that. That's exactly what it is. We're going to get there right now. Yeah. So we're 4 lines up from the bottom, in the middle of the line there. With Chila Mishtalshem in Makayra B'derech Mishtalshelus Amadregas descends by way of all of these intermediate levels. Until we get to the level where you actually have Yesh Mi'ayin. Yesh Mi'ayin meaning to say you have physical existence that seems to come out of nothing. Right? It seems to come out of nothing. It's called Ayin because we don't see it. It's not there. It doesn't have the same qualities as physical existence. Physical existence we can see with our senses. Right? What's behind it we don't see with our senses. Okay. That aspect which creates is hidden from what it creates. Right? If the creator, the creating thing, the creator, the creative power would be revealed to the created thing, to the created thing, it would cease to exist. It would cease to exist as it is. Why? Because it would now be absorbed in its source. If it would be completely aware of it, it would cease to exist. Okay. And the indication of this, or the proof of it is, Shaharigam hamalachim shem sichlim nivdalim. Even the malachim on the highest level of malachim, called the sichlim hanivdalim, the malachim of Atzilus, v'hem hanivraim hagadolim. These are the greatest of the angels. Shalem ne'ema ma'gadlu ma'asecha. Regarding which it says, the pasuk says, how great are your works. That's talking about the malachim in the world of Atzilus, because each of the worlds has their malachim. I think I explained this last time. I'm not sure if I did. I think I explained it last time. There's malachim in the world of Atzilus, which are called the sichlim hanivdolim. The malachim in the world of Bria, called the strofim. Malachim in the world of Yetzirah, called the chayos, or stam the malachim. Right? And the malachim in Olam Asiyah, called the Oifanim. Right? So Oifanim, Chayas HaKodesh, Srofim, Sichlim Nivdolim. Different levels of malachim. Now what are these malachim? The malachim are not like winged creatures per se, right? They're not. That's maybe how the Nevi'im describe them. But these are divine forces, a shlichus. A malach is a shlichus. Right? Hashem makes a shlichus of a particular concept, a particular force, or whatever it is, that's we call it a malach.
So malachei hasharet be'atzilus?
Malachei hasharet b'derech klal hem b'bria. Malachei hasharet.
מה איזה מלאכים באצילות?
מה שנקרא sichlim hanivdalim. Sichlim hanivdalim, which means like separated intellect or abstract intellect, like abstract ideas, right?
מלאך גבריאל, מלאך מיכאל, איפה
הם המשרתים מעולם הבריאה בדרך כלל. יכול להיות גם כמיצירה, אבל בעולם הבריאה בדרך כלל, כן? There are angels which are, how shall I say, permanent angels, permanent in whatever sense you could say permanent. There are angels that are permanent, in other words, Michael and Gabriel and so on and so forth. Those are in the world of Bria. The angels which are created from moment to moment are in Yetzirah and Asiyah. Right? They're created only for particular missions, particular shlichuses. Right? Masha Enkain, Gabriel, Michael, and so on, Raphael. All those malachim have a set shlichus, and they don't disappear with each shlichus. Even though Rashi says when it came time to destroy the cities in the time of Noach Loit, right? In the time of Loit, not Noach Loit, right? Hashem was going to destroy it. So there was one angel that was sent to rescue Loit and his family, one angel that was sent to destroy the cities of Sodom, and so on. And so each of these angels had their tafkid, they had their task, and they had to be sent again to do another task. So in other words, even though they came to rescue Lot, they were going to take him out of where he was supposed to go, but he wanted to go to a different city, he wanted to go to one of the cities, so they had to get permission for that. It's a new shlichus now, right? Yeah, okay. So, as Rashi points out over there. Okay, so, even if we're talking about the Sichlim Hanivdolim, these greatest angels, the angels in the world of Atzilus, Hina Amar Arizal, second line, Hoishit HaKadosh Baruch Hu Etzbayu HaKatana B'neiim V'Sorfam. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu would stick his pinky, so to speak, right? In other words, the smallest aver in the body, he would stick it into amongst them, so to speak. V'Sorfam, they would just blow up. They would burn up. In other words, if there was one iota more gilui than they were created to have, they would just plug your light switch, your lamp into the generator, right? It would just disappear, right? It would blow up completely. It can't take such a... But here, even a little bit more, because they have a certain bandwidth, so to speak, right? And if you add to that bandwidth more than they can handle, it just, blows them out, right? Okay, so what's the point that we're trying to make over here? Pirush HaKasher Nizgala Aleim Yosem HaChok HaKatzuv. if there would be revealed amongst them more than the measure that is set aside for them, nizbatlu lagamre, they would completely disappear. They would be nizbatlu, they would be nullified. So similarly with us, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu allows us to see certain things, but if it would be revealed as He is to us, we wouldn't be able to handle it, right? We would just go into a state of...
like when He spoke to us in Matan Torah.
Right, exactly. Parcha nishmasam, exactly the point. When He spoke to at Matan Torah, it says, I called dibur v'dibur parcha nishmasam. Every word that Hashem said, the neshama flew out, right? The goof couldn't handle it, right? Yeah. Right, exactly. How much more so if He would be revealed more than He is? He's actually concealed. But if He would be revealed somewhat, all the rest of the Nivroim, if this is true, that the Sichlim HaNivdolim would blow up with a little bit too much, how much more so everything else, which is on a much lower level, everything else in the world of Asiya, right? They would completely cease to exist. Now, if that's the case, if their existence is completely dependent on how much revelation is going to be, right? So in other words, at this bandwidth where we exist, right? Anything more, we don't exist anymore. So what's our existence? Our existence is completely contingent, as we said before. It's dependent, right? Very contingent. In other words, we're here, yes, but we're only here under very strict conditions, right? That's right. Okay, so that's exactly what he says now.
You mentioned in Yetzirah or Asiya,
yeah,
all the worlds.
Yeah, all the worlds. Yeah. Just that we're in Asiya. Even at the time that we are a yesh and a davar, we hear and we feel our existence, and if you bang your head against the wall, you're going to know about it, right? We're not true existence. We're not existence in the sense that we're sort of independent existence. We're not independent existence. We're completely dependent on that bandwidth remaining where it is. If the bandwidth would expand, we would cease to exist. So how can you say that our existence is true existence? It's not true existence. That's what the Rambam meant when he says only his existence is true existence, and ours is not true existence, right? It's existence, not that it doesn't exist, but it's so dependent on the conditions of existence that it can't be said to exist in the same sense that his existence, because it's independent existence, it's a necessary existence, right? Okay.
His is necessary existence.
Right, his is necessary existence. Right. And he's going to bring, and he's going to bring a proof again from halacha, right? And the proof of it is from rivers that are called naros hamachazvim, rivers that are called false springs, false water, false springs. Doesn't mean that the water is not real. Doesn't mean you can't drink the water. The water is good. You just can't use them for tahara, for purposes of purification. A well or a spring rather that dries up even once in 7 years is called. Such springs are called narot hamachazvim. They're false waters, right? They're false springs. Why? Because it dries up once in 7 years. If it dries up once in 7 years, even when it's there, it's not true existence because its existence is limited, right? It's going to dry up soon.
It depends on rain.
Depends on all kinds of things, right? So therefore, these such things we can't use for tahara, we can't use for purification purposes because they have only a limited existence.
But it's not permanent.
Right. And what about the world? The world is only going to be around for 6,000 years, whatever that means, right? But that's what the world exists. It says, Shis alfei shnin have alma. The world exists for 6,000 years. V'chad charub, and then a year, and then 1,000 years of destruction. Now, destruction doesn't mean to say, destruction in that sense. It just means that the world will move up to a higher madrega, and then compared with that madrega, this madrega is not real existence. That's real existence, right? It moves up to a higher level, right? So therefore, the existence here, since it's going to be bitul eventually, like these springs, if they're they dry up even once in 7 years. How much more so? More soon than that, dry up once every year or whatever. Let's say in the summer, right? Then they're not real springs. They can't be used for what we need springs for, purity and so on, right? So if the world is going to dry up, so to speak, right, in the future, so its existence is not real in the sense that even though the water exists now and you can drink the water and it can quench your thirst and you're satisfied from it and you can use it to put out a fire and so on and so forth, right? But its existence is not pure existence in the sense that it's contingent, it's dependent. It doesn't have the purity, right, of being permanent. So the same thing he says over here. If they even once in 7 years they fail to produce water, you can't use them for the water that's required for the red heifer. Kiddush mei chatas it's called, right? Kiddush mei chatas, when in the Beit HaMikdash, the ashes of the red heifer, in order to mataher someone from a state of tumas meis, right? He would come into contact with a dead person, and he has to be purified. So you need the ashes of the red heifer, and you need mayim chayim, not just water, but mayim chayim, living water, right? If water comes out and it dries up even once in 7 years, even though the water might be pouring out now, right? But if it dries up once in 7 years, you can't use that water. So that's a big question. That's a big question. Why does that say 7 years? Because 7 years is a period of time that it's a shemitah, right? That's the whole shemitah, it's the whole period of time. So our question is, if it's 8 years, they say even if it's 8 years, it doesn't matter. If it dries up, if it ever dries up, it's no good, right? Wow. But, okay. So it's possible for Kiddush mei chatas. In other words, he continues. Yeah, except that the ocean is not always called mayim chayim. There's certain springs that are mayim chayim, and Mei HaShiloach and various others. Kinneret maybe, I don't know. Yeah, maybe. It's fed by springs, so it could be. V'agam sheka'eis, and even though right now, Shiloach, yeah. V'agam sheka'eis, haim holchim b'toiv, even though the spring is flowing right now, rak ma'ach she'ach l'sheva shonim nifsak hiluchan, even if it dries up once in 7 years, haim psulim, gam ba'esha holchim, even now when they're flowing, they're no good. Im kain halo amru Arizal, Chazal says as follows: Shis alfei shnin have alma. The world exists for 6,000 years. V'chat charuf, and 1 year of drying up. Right? Charuf can also mean drying up. Right? It's dried up, like sort of dried up. It disappears. It's destroyed. Shenimtza achas b'shavua. It comes out that once in a millennium, heim mechazvim v'nifsakim. It dries up and it stops running, so to speak. The world will stop running once in 7 years. Once in seven millennia. Huh?
Referring to our creation.
Right. Lachen gam ba'eis asher ha'olam nimtza. Therefore, even when the world is here, hu gam ken einu metzias emiti. It's not true existence. Right? Just like the mayim chazvin. Uma gam asher b'ritzos aboire yuchal hizgalo is dava hamahave al dava hamishave ve'yeh ayin ve'efes me'akol. And it says not only that it's going to, in the 7th millennium, dry up, so to speak, but also at any particular moment, Hashem could reveal Himself on the world and it would be completely misbatel. So therefore, its existence right now, it's not real existence, right? Yes, it exists. Yes, it's water that flows in the spring now. Yes, it's a world that if you bang your head on the wall, you'll know about it, and so on. Although there's a beautiful story, actually, a story from the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe and Lubavitcher Rebbe, their grandchildren got married. So there was this huge chasana. I think it was a place called Shlovin. I think it was, right. It was a huge chasana, and they were in a room where they were writing the Tanoim or whatever it is. They were writing the thing for the contract. They were in this room, and there was tens of thousands of Chassidim outside, and maybe even hundreds of thousands. I mean, all the Chassidim of Rabbi Rebbe, and all the Chassidim of the Alter Rebbe, and the Chassidim of their Chaverim, who all came to the Chasana. It was a huge Chasana, right? All came to the Chasana. So they couldn't get out. There was such a press of people, such a crush of people. They couldn't get out of the room. They had to go to the chuppah, right? They couldn't get out of the room. So Rabbi Yitzhak turns to the Alter Rebbe and he says, well, go through the wall. What's the big deal, right? We'll go through the wall. So the Alter Rebbe says, but not in front of everybody. So you could see, I mean, if in modern science, you can understand that actually very well, right? Why? Because any atom is mostly space, 99.99% space, right? An atom is 99.99% space, right? And the space between the atoms and the molecules is mostly space. Right now, you can't go through the wall. At least we can't go through the wall, right? But a tzaddik who's bottle in that kind of way, so if he's on this side of the wall or that side of the wall, it's no big deal, right? He can reconstitute himself on the other side of the wall, so to speak. It's not an impossibility for a tzaddik like Levi Yisroel and Alter Rebbe. In any event, the Mirror Maharash continues. וזה שאומר הרמב"ם, וזה שכתב הרמב"ם, על פסוק, והשם אלוקים אמס. Hu levado ha'emes, he alone is emes, ve'ein la'acher, ein la'acher, there's nothing else, emes kamitasoi. Nothing else has the same truth as his truth. In other words, as we said before, it's not that they don't exist, but that they exist on their plane of truth. The real truth is their source, right? Hashem's existence. V'zehu ein od milvado, and that's the meaning of ein od milvado, as we said before. She'ein sham emes matzu milvado kamoiso. There's no other existence like his. Yeah, and ours is contingent existence, like the Rambam said, but they explained it a little bit more. Right? I was in for time. Okay.
Rabbi,
yeah.
So the previous example was inferred through that's the Halachic example of existence.
Yes.
In addition to Rambam. That's the...
Yeah.
Not the addition to the previous...
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. So in other words, basically the whole Torah fits together. Everything fits together. It's all one Torah, but explained in different dimensions, different ways. Without Chassidus, the halacha would just be dry halacha, right? It would be dry halacha, a spring that dries up once in 7 years, you can't use for Kiddush Mechatas. You can't use it for the red heifer, and the water is for the red heifer, right? Okay, fine, big deal, all right? That's a halacha, it's a halacha, you don't have to think about it, that's what it is, yeah? But if you start thinking about it, and you understand like what it means, and why it is like that, and what that means in terms of our existence, and so on, then you start to think, well, this is a whole different existence, a whole different world, right? It's a whole different thing. There's there's Hashem's existence, there's our existence. That's real existence, not ours is existence, but dependent, and therefore, and so on and so forth. And why is that important? Because when a person wants to come to a state of bitul, so these are the things that he has to contemplate, he has to think about, right? He has to meditate on this, that our existence is completely dependent existence. It's dependent on Hashem, keeping the bands very narrow, right? The bands of existence, the bandwidth of existence, narrow enough that we're not going to, if it would be expanded, suddenly it would disappear, right? And that's what happens with tzaddikim. Tzaddikim manage to expand that bandwidth, so to speak, right? Yeah. So that they are in a state of bitul all the time. Like they feel their bitul. They feel their non-existence at the same time as existing. They exist in the world. They do Torah and mitzvahs, and Torah and mitzvahs count. There's schar and there's oneness, and there's a real world. But nevertheless, they can exist beyond the very narrow band in which we find ourselves, right? They expand their existence into the world of Yetzirah, the world of Bria, the world of Atzilus. Most tzaddikim, great tzaddikim in the world of Atzilus.
They have much wider band.
Yeah, right.
Because of their bitul, because of their understanding.
Yeah, it's not just understanding, but they don't just understand it, because we can understand the world of Atzilus, but they live it, right? They live the world of Atzilus. That's where they are. But their consciousness is in the world of Atzilus.
That way they can go visit wherever they want.
They can go visit, right? Yeah, so to speak. Yeah, yeah. And that's why something like a wall is not a barrier, right? for the great.
Different walls. So what is the wall for them?
Right. Yeah.
Their consciousness is higher. But the brain or the emotions are like a little different order, or like the quality of ideas, or the different dimension of ideas that flow?
It's not just the quality of ideas, it's the level of neshama that we're talking about. Basically it works like this. And we're going to get to this in one of the later lectures, we're going to get to this concept. But the idea is that the neshama has 5 levels. Right? There's 5 levels in the neshama. Nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, yechida. What is the neshama? The neshama is basically consciousness. I mean, there's no real word for it in English, but that's the word that we use because it's hard to think of another word, right? So the consciousness of this world is called neshama. The consciousness of the world, the consciousness of this world is called nefesh. Yeah, the consciousness of your goof and the senses that you have, that's nefesh, right? Emotional consciousness, or consciousness of the qualities of let me just take a step back. Let me take one step back. This lowest world, the world of Asiya, corresponds in the spheroids to Malchus, right? The sphere of Malchus, and that's the most, you could call it the most separated from the existence of Elokus, right? Right, it's the lowest. As it says in the Pasuk, Kol Mashe Nikra Vishmi Ulichvoidi, Lishmi Ulichvoidi Olam Atzilus, Barasiv Olam Abriya, Yetzasiv Olam Asiya, Af Asisiv, I even made it. Asisiv is separated by the word Af, right? In other words, there's a separation between the upper world and the final lower world, the world of Asiya, Af Asisiv, right? Okay, so see that the world of Asiya is kind of separated from everything else. It corresponds to Malchus, right? The world of Malchus. Then the emotions are Zeranpin, right? That's Zeranpin, and that's what's revealed in the world of Yetzirah, and that corresponds to Ruach, right? That's where Ruach is. Then Neshama is in the world of Bria, right? The world of Bria is the world of primarily Bina. Right? All the spheres are there, but it's the dominant sphere in the world of Bria is Bina. The dominant spheres in the world of Yetzirah are Zeir Anpin, Chesed Gvura Tiferes Netzach Yesod. The dominant sphere in the world, in our world, is Malchus. In the world of Asiya, Malchus, right? The dominant sphere in the world of Atzilus is Chochmah, right? So the Alter Rebbe says in Chochmah, the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, in Perek Lamed Hey in Tanya, he explains the whole inyan of Chochmah. So what is Chochmah? What's the hergesh of Chochmah? Wow, what does Chochmah feel like? What's the state of mind, so to speak, of Chochmah? All right, Hu lavado hu ve'en zulaso. That's all that it is. It's only Hashem, right? That's what Chochmah feels. Bina sort of understands that, right? But Bina is called Shmiya, whereas Chochmah is called Re'iyah. Chochmah sees it and Bina hears it, right? Bina understands it. But Chochmah experiences that. Chochmah knows that that's Hu lavado hu ve'en zulaso. V'zohi medrekas haChochmah. That's what the Alter Rebbe says. Perek Lamed Hay in Tanya and Hagoah. That's where he says it, right? So that's the world of Atzilus, and that's where tzaddikim, that's where the neshamas are. Tzaddikim, the great tzaddikim in the world, they see Elokus. They don't see a physical world per se. They see the way things really are. They see the Elokus. That's right. That's exactly right. The Alter Rebbe, before his passing, when he was with the Tzemach Tzedek, he said to Tzemach Tzedek, what do you see? I see the ceiling. He says, I don't. I see the Dvar Hashem and Mahaves. I see only the word of Hashem that's creating. Yeah, right. He only sees, that's all he saw. He saw that's Riyah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so now we understand this concept of the existence of this world and what kind of existence it is, as opposed to the existence, lahavdil, the existence of Hashem. And so the question is, how do we get from that to this? So that we'll have to leave for the next year. That's reading number 15 from Eitz Chaim, the whole concept of Tzimtzum, and the explanation of Tzimtzum in Alter Rebbe, and various other approaches to that inyan. So we'll leave that for next time.